Good afternoon once again. I hope you all found that an interesting opportunity, and we certainly welcome your feedback. I know that we had a wonderful chance to meet colleagues around the world and have some very interesting conversations. And I'm sure that LinkedIn pages globally are now buzzing as people in many languages connect. Humans and the nature of which they are part. You will remember these were the two items I identified at the start of the forum yesterday as our main focus. Our speakers today cover the topics of youth, refugees and conflict recovery, clean energy, architecture and community design. To open this session, I'm pleased to introduce a video from Mr. Kailash Satyarthi. Mr. Satyarthi was awarded the 2014 Nobel Peace Prize, which he shared with Ms. Malala Yousafzai for their struggle against the suppression of children and young people and for the right of all children to education. After completing an electrical engineering degree in his native country of India, he then worked as a teacher. In 1980, he left teaching and founded an organization which has freed thousands of children from slave-like conditions. He has also been active in a wide range of other organizations working against child labor and for children's rights to education, work he continues with the Kailash Satyarthi Foundation today. Mr. Satyarthi, you have the floor.
My dear friends, it's always a pleasure to be amongst my own fraternity. I am one of you. Needless to say that over the last 2-3 decades, the role, responsibility, and the impact of NGO community has increased multifold, and we have seen the results. I remember when we organized the Global March Against Child Labor in 1998 and demanded an international law to combat the worst forms of child labor, we succeeded, and the power lied in the young people, children, and civil society, NGOs, unions. We have also seen the same result of Global Campaign for Education, when we were able to galvanize the support of the entire world in favor of education, not only at the global scale, but also in the countries. Many of you have been succeeded in amending the constitutions, like it happened in India, as well as making new laws for right to education. We have also seen that the governments and international community was compelled to enhance budgetary allocations and ODAs. But it is not enough, dear friends. We have to work hard, because when 40,000 children between the age of 5 and 11 are pushed to child labor every single day, we cannot achieve any of the education goal. We cannot achieve sustainable development goal. We cannot ensure education. Today, 160 million children are working as child laborers. That means 160 million empty seats in the classrooms. That means 160 million jobs of adult people were taken away by children or given to children forcefully. That also means 160 million missed opportunities. Education is not a charity. Education is not something we have to beg. Education is our fundamental right. And we have to strengthen the NGO movement globally and ask the governments that you can never achieve any of the sustainable development goals. You cannot bring about justice and equality in the society The peace is not possible, sustainability is not possible without quality public education for all, and that is our fundamental right. Friends, we have globalized everything. Economy, markets, production. But if we talk of global citizenship, we should not forget that we have to globalize compassion. How could it be possible that half of the child laborers in the world come from sub-Saharan Africa alone? This is a manifestation of institutional and systemic deprivation, but racial discrimination. When we talk of global citizenship, how come a child can easily be employed by an American or by an European company in Africa or in Asia or in Latin America, but they cannot employ child labor in their own countries? When we talk of global citizenship, we have to feel that the world is one and we have to act together as one. Friends, pandemic has taught us a lesson and is still teaching us a lesson that we are essentially interdependent. We are essentially interconnected. No problem could be seen and solved in isolation. We have to hold our hands and be the strongest possible voice of the most marginalized children of the world for education and for development and for human rights. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Satyarthi, for your contribution to this forum and your continued work in such an important field. I truly feel that highlighting those statistics as you did, especially around sub-Saharan Africa, is a damning indictment of the current status of our world and really indicates just how far we have to come to make reality equitable and true for those we work with, we live with, and we share our planet with. I now have the pleasure of introducing Mr. Manyang Reath Kher. Having lived as a refugee, an immigrant, and now being a successful teacher and entrepreneur, Manyang has a unique life story that only he can tell, and I will hand over to him now for him to share it. Manyang, the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you, Sneak, for the introduction. I would like to play a small video just in case if I can't, and I don't know. I know the problem, I know the people, I speak the language, I understand what they really need. And more people think that all refugees ever need is handout. But it's actually opposite thing. They don't need handout, they need opportunity to be given. Like education, like, you know, the work opportunity that they can be given. Children that were displaced by war, and they were co-lost boys because they lost everything. They lost the country, they lost the healthcare, they lost education, and we were just put into a refugee camp in Ethiopia. .734 was started as a small refugee coffee from one little camp to one little camp, and now we're here in America. We're talking about how we can change the, you know, the perception of refugees. Imagine your child go from like kindergarten to graduate high school, and then get accepted to college, but you couldn't pay for it because you're just a refugee. It hurt many families. Everybody thinking about refugee are handout, eat, just okay, give them food, let them stay there, and that's a perception that people have. I just want to work. I just want to be somebody. Like, not just somebody to be handing things to. I just want to be at least somebody, like somewhere. You can help join us in the mission to try and actually help people and not hand out, like give them a tool to help themselves. I sell the best coffee there is, like it's just the best coffee. My life was not promised, but it sure get better. I have education. I run track in high school. I made a lot of friends. Even my college time, I enjoy. I have things, and I feel like, I want to be example, but I want to advocate, but actually show what the example of what people could do.
Thank you so much for giving me a chance to mix or to express myself. As we approaching and achieving a global citizen, I think it's only best that to share the many refugees that are just out there and don't get opportunity to accomplish life. I started out in Sudan, become refugees, went to one camp or another for 13 years. It was tough there. There's no love. You can imagine a lot of challenges that are going out there. So no love, no anything. So food is not always enough. Then I got opportunity to go to America, where I have a better life and accomplish so many things. Having to go to school and starting 734 coffee company. One example that I feel like people should look to is that when we give people a chance and they give them opportunity, they not only become a citizen from where they originally come from, but they will be a citizen of a country, the second country, and to the world. Because what is a functioning citizen? A functioning citizen is people that are willing to push society out, give them a job opportunity. Like for example, 734 is hiring people in the state, is also hiring people back home here in South Sudan. And so we become a global citizen because what it does is people use our products, and we become that way to help people and achieve the goal of having to work for themselves, having not to depend on humanitarian aid. And so that is a real global citizenship that we all should be talking about. And that's what I feel, or what all the refugees represent, is that the opportunity that should be given to us, and sharing our story, helping to lead many countries, like that is a true global citizenship. And the last thing that I just wanted to mention is that, everyone need opportunity, no matter where you come from. It could be your brother, it could be your family, it could be somebody somewhere. There has to be opportunity to be given to you to reach what destiny that you want to reach in life. And so I'm very grateful of having to go to America, having to work so hard, reaching all this opportunity that I reached. And I can't thank so much for all the opportunity there is.
Thank you, Manyang. I don't think anyone can listen to your experiences and not be inspired. I'm very grateful that you were able to join us today and share your input from Juba in South Sudan. My own brief time there was an eye-opening experience, and I know that the work you are doing with your team at 734 Coffee and 734 Water to ensure access to water is so critical in the country. So thank you. And I'll be grateful for you to hang around and join us for the Q&A session after the next two speakers. Thank you.
Thank you.
We now move to our next speaker, a young and impressive advocate for clean energy and innovative engineering. Rind is a member of the global support team of the MGCY SDG 7 Youth Constituency and was the co-thematic focal point on variable and renewable energy grid integration in the 2020 to 2021 mandate. As a UNESCO Education for Sustainable Development Youth Arab leader, she has facilitated several workshops on the SDGs. She has also represented youth in multiple conferences, notably as a panelist in the NGO-UNESCO Liaison Committee International Forums and as a speaker at the 2016 Many Languages, One World Global Youth Forum at United Nations headquarters in New York. On an academic level, she is a Lebanese-French engineering graduate of École Polytechnique in France, specializing in sustainable energy. She is currently combining her scientific and technical knowledge on energy engineering with her interest in energy economics and policies in a PhD on emission-free hydrogen for the industry and transport sectors in France. Ms. Alhage, you have the floor.
Hi, Nick. Thank you so much for the lovely introduction. I'm really happy to be here, and I'm also looking forward to your questions at the end of the session. So I'm here to talk about the link between SDG 7, the goal on energy, and the topic of this forum, which is global citizenship. In the Lebanese dialect, we use the same word, alam, to refer to people or to the world itself. Far from an isolated linguistic curiosity, this is a simple manifestation of our dearest aspect in this world, people. We define our world by the people who live in it and shape it to what it is today. We also define our world by our interactions with people and the worlds we create for ourselves within the bigger picture. So what is my world personally? My name is Rind, and my world is the communities that I am part of. It's my family, my friends, the people joining me here online. It's my university, my workplace, my neighborhood, my countries, Lebanon and France, but it's also the community of youth in energy that I'm part of and the international sphere at large. As you might have guessed, I consider myself to be a global citizen. And yes, it's the topic of this forum. Yes, it sounds very nice. And yes, you probably expected me to say this, but trust me, I actually mean it. Global citizens are people who feel connected and garner a sense of responsibility towards cultures beyond their own and towards the world at large. We are aware of the world, of our actions, and how we humans affect it. As global citizens, we have a desire to contribute positively to communities and improve the lives of others. Aside from my personal values, being active in the energy sphere is a continuous affirmation of my support towards global citizenship. First and foremost, the energy transition in itself is a global challenge, and a global challenge requires global solutions. When we tackle the energy transition, we automatically are steered to view it in a global perspective. It's because the issue is not how we use energy as individuals or locally, but as how we use energy as an entire planet. Power generation and transport together accounted for over 2/3 of global worldwide greenhouse gas emissions in 2019. We are not equal in the way and the resources of energy that are available to us. Some countries have high winds or solar exposure, and then they can use renewable energy. Other countries have a really big reservoir of fossil fuels. Others can just rely on hydropower, but most countries don't really have a very specific source of energy that they use, but a mix of solutions that include input. So yes, we are not all equal in the energy sources that are available to us. However, we're all equal in being responsible for the impact of our energy use, because climate change affects our planet as a whole in different proportions than the damage caused by each country or region. So we don't really have the perfect solution to provide clean and affordable energy for everyone. Otherwise, we would have probably just put it in place already. But we do know most of the positive and negative impacts of energy use and our different choices in the energy sector. We have some main broad guidelines: consume less, consume better, and consume cleaner. For example, this translates into steering away from fossil fuels and using more efficient equipment or identifying areas where we could save power. So the perfect solution is actually a mix of imperfect solutions that are adapted to each local context and minimize the global damage. To tackle the energy transition, the United Nations 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development dedicated the Sustainable Development Goal 7 to ensuring access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy for all. The 5 targets of this goal are on energy access, the share of renewable energy in the global mix, energy efficiency, international cooperation for clean energy research, technology, and financing, as well as infrastructure and technology upgrades in developing countries. From the moment you open your eyes, you start using energy. You turn on the light, you heat your room, you turn on the stove, you use your car, you go online to watch us here today. Modern society depends on reliable and affordable energy services to function smoothly, but we haven't yet reached SDG 7. As you see, 1/3 of the world's population use dangerous and inefficient cooking systems that damage their health and the planet. 759 million people lack access to electricity. Modern renewable energy is still a very low share of the global energy mix. We need a well-established system that supports all of the sectors with sustainable energy, whether it is supporting medicine to education, agriculture, infrastructure, communications, technology, all while safeguarding our planet. So I'm going to go back to my initial points. How does all of this relate to my world? If my world were a book in a library, you would probably find it in the section on sustainable development, somewhere underneath youth empowerment. Over the past few years, these two areas have slowly dominated my world, whether it's in my studies or in my career as an energy engineer, or in my personal engagement outside of academia. For example, this summer I was meeting online with some young students, young university students from around the world, to discuss the role that universities can have in tackling climate action. Actually, I was more trying than succeeding in attending these meetings, and I had a lot of issues along the way, but one of the most memorable contributions was in September when I showed up to one meeting and then I started by saying, "Hi guys, I'm sorry I missed the last meeting. We had a power cut and no internet." It's the irony of an energy activist with no power. To put things into context, at the time I was visiting my family in Lebanon. And as many of you may know, the country was facing, is also still facing, an unprecedented economic crisis. For example, we had around 10 hours of power cuts a day. The schedule was constantly changing. We had to improvise and adapt all along, and this is still going on. There's a lack of energy and fuel for transport. And what would happen is that we would be around the house, and as soon as the electricity went on, we would start running around everywhere. And some of us would go to turn on the water heater or the washing machine. Others would go and charge their electronics. And we were trying to do everything before the power cuts off again. So, of course, attending the meeting wasn't really feasible at that time. And while I still believed at that time that climate change is the most important and the biggest challenge that the world was facing at the time, but my biggest problem in my world back then was whether my next shower would be in the dark again. The power problems that I faced for a few weeks are nothing compared to the hardships my country has endured for months, and also to the reality of millions of people around the world, 759 million people, that struggle with energy access daily. We all know that international negotiations are very strict in their wording. So every single word counts when you look at SDG 7. SDG 7 is about ensuring access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy for all. Access to affordable energy means choosing a school based on the quality of its education instead of its proximity because the daily costs of fuel or energy for transport are too high. Access to reliable energy means having stable and steady power for your business that allows you to plan ahead, work on a schedule, and deliver outputs reliably to your clients. Access to sustainable energy means cooking with clean and safe equipment without putting your health and the environment at risk. Access to modern energy means having an efficient system that wastes as little energy as possible. So when we think of the energy transition, we often think of shifting from fossil fuels to renewable energy or other forms of clean energy. Though it is true, this is not really the only energy transition that we have, and it's one energy transition among many that need to take place to lead our world to a more sustainable trajectory. Some transitions will be about renewables. Some other transitions will be about energy access or energy efficiency or energy savings. Working to solve our shared global problems in energy and climate is so important, and this drive to make a positive impact is most effective when it stems from a feeling of global citizenship and being a member of an international community. On these grounds, and with that spirit in mind, my organization, the SDG 7 Youth Constituency, was established in 2020 as the Energy Working Group of the Major Group for Children and Youth. It is the formal and dedicated youth engagement mechanism for UN Sustainable Development processes and other initiatives in the multilateral system that are focused on energy. The constituency's mission is to bring the voice of young people to the decision table and to ensure that there are enduring avenues of meaningful engagement for youth in the energy transition. To achieve this, the constituency acts as a global network of youth and energy with a focus on policy advocacy and capacity building. Our unique value stems from this global aspect of us being global citizens. We are a network of youth organizations and individuals with an international reach and a shared drive to kickstart the sustainable energy transition as a global community. I give myself as an example, not because I'm more interesting than the topic, but because I am here today. I carry the voice of those who are literally in the dark and struggle daily with energy access. Remember them, because in the darkness you find the brightest and most passionate energy advocates. I also invite all of you organizations to open meaningful avenues of engagement for youth in your organizations, because including the perspectives of different people within your own community is just as important as being global and including perspectives from different communities that are far away. So to sum up, there are close links between SDG 7 and global citizenship because the impact of energy use and climate change is shared by humanity as a whole. The energy transition can mean different things to different people. It can have a different meaning locally than globally. It can be about renewable energy production, energy access, energy efficiency. But the common denominator is that we all share a responsibility to safeguard our world. So I began by describing my world to you. Now I ask you the same question. What is your world? You didn't choose to live on this planet, but you can choose to be its citizen. And the final question I want to ask you today is the same one that they ask you when you apply for citizenship of a country. Why do you want to be a citizen of the world? If it's because you believe that humanity has a shared responsibility to go on a more sustainable path and safeguard our planet, then your world is my world. So let's power the sustainable energy transition together. Thank you, everyone, and I'm really looking forward to your questions.
Thank you, Ms. Alhage, for your presentation and indeed clarity in what we need as we move forwards to achieve sustainable change. We certainly do have some questions for you. So if I can ask you to hold on till after our next speaker, we'll be back for a Q&A. Thank you. Our final guest speaker for this forum is a young Brazilian named Mariana Montag. I had the great pleasure of meeting Mariana when she was working in the field in Uganda, putting her innovative approach to architecture into practice. And her current work develops this even further. When we asked her for a biography to describe herself or to introduce herself to the audience at the forum, she said the following: "I would like to introduce myself every day, but I do it with myself, recognizing myself as routine. Architecture for me is the guide to live the adventures I desire and to unblock introjected limiting aspects. I am allowing myself to live and speak of love as political resistance and invite the analytical mind to craft technical innovations aimed at systematic transformations. I work with intensity for dreams that serve the earth and public liberation. I see a future of great pleasure to everyone." And I think there's a real message there that mirrors what Brian Rush said yesterday about living authentically. And I know she certainly does. I'd like to hand the floor then to Ms. Montag. Thank you.
Hello, hi everyone. Hi Nick, thank you very much. Are you hearing me good? Well, I hope yes. I'm very grateful to be here and grateful to have the space to share with all of you, and also excited to exchange. And I would share, I prepared some slides so I can share with you. All right. So I came today to share with you the work of our organization that is called A Casa. We are a collective that works on self-built housing for women in rural areas. We first started working in Uganda, and I will share a little bit about our process. But basically what we understood and what we care for, it's understanding there is a community in the world out there that carries a really special seed of ancestral knowledge. And those guardians, as we recognize as the women that we have been in touch, are the grandmothers. Those grandmothers, we are constantly pairing up with them and collaborating with them to be learners, to be apprentices of their knowledge. And as architecture, as our tool, what we are doing is uniting our knowledge with their knowledge and the local demands to understand how the building process can share and exchange with the communities and other people that desire to learn through the construction what is this ancestral knowledge about. So after the people participating in this construction, how the people involved can carry the knowledge to be cultivated. So we use architecture as a tool to cultivate this heritage of this very much wise people, wise women that are doing so much for the earth. We are rooted in Brazil as Brazilian architects. We have been working in Uganda for the past 3 years, and now we're doing a current project in Mexico, in Oaxaca. And I will share a little bit about our methodology. So I started the work when I was in the last year of my university of architecture, and I had the opportunity of doing 3 years in the community of Chikajo in Uganda. In this process of actually just witnessing, just learning from the atmosphere, from the people, from the environment. So our methodology now, we synthesized it in a period of immersion, of creating this bridge between foreigners, between the external knowledge and the rich and deep culture of the local knowledge. And then we step into the design and the process based on everything that we cared in our, like, the learning process of the values of the community. And then we do the research and the communication so we can keep on creating the bridges and sharing the knowledges and expanding these narratives that are being built together. So we started the work in Chikajo, is a rural village in Uganda. That's where I first met Nick in the Congress that ACWW was preparing of the rural leaders in East Africa. And I was working with Jaja. I will show a little bit about her. So now we're working with Maria Luisa in Mexico, in Oaxaca. And so this is Nanono Immaculate. This is the grandmother, which I would say that I would change the word help for the word serve. So there's this whole process of methodology on how to serve these women is based on how can we really try to understand and perceive their built environment and absorb this to serve in a more ethical way, right? Not imposing, not trying to help, because at the end we're the ones being truly helped. And so this is Nanono Immaculate. Jaja means grandmother in Luganda, the local language in Chikajo. So at the first moment, all that we done together was to really get to know each other. And for me, as an architect, to really observe how was the life, the routine, the body movements, the dynamics, really getting to know her psychological path of desires, dreams, and connection to the material world, the meanings, and also understanding how the local materials were used, how the local vernacular architecture was produced, and also how people of other collectives, they were summing up technical innovations with what was naturally there. And we did the first prototype. So after doing this first prototype, we understood that inside the design process, how can we even go deeper inside the design process to understand if there is a way in which we could build this house in a more inclusive way. So how can we build this house, making this this construction process a school of construction for local women? Of course, pairing up with the men too, the men being the teachers, and we could do a really diverse and inclusive process. So we broke through the construction process and techniques to include local movements of the women into the construction process. So our first prototype, Judge's House, it took 6 weeks for us to build. And the first week we built the foundation. The second week we built all of the structure of the roof, the roofing. The 4th week, we build the walls. 5th week, we build the roofing. And the 6th week, all of the closings of the house. So this is Jaja and Gift and all of the open space that she has to do whatever she believes is important as her daily routine. And now we are working with Maria Luisa Rivera Grijalva, grandmother Cuentacuentos. I think that she's here listening to us today. And I decided to continue my studies and create, be open to these meetings with other grandmothers and women of a lot of wisdom. And Maria Luisa is located in Ciudad de Mexico in Mexico City, and the process continued. So she is a guardian of Totonaca culture, and she carries a lot of ancestral knowledge that she has the compromise of sharing through her stories. And she does autobiography workshops with women, and she's also a leader. So she self-built her neighborhood in Ciudad de Mexico. And now we are going together through this process of understanding who Maria Luisa is, what are her desires. We're building this house in Escobilla, that is a rural area in the coast of Oaxaca. And together with other grandmothers, what they're aiming to do is to creating this space to preserve and to share the indigenous culture. This is the house that we designed together. Let me show. Understanding always personally what is the desire of the grandmother, so we can serve in a more particular way as the house is hers, but also how can we develop techniques that share their knowledge through a more systemical process of learning. So this is what I wanted to share. I live here at our context, so we can keep chatting and exchanging, and I'm looking forward for our conversation.
Thank you, Mariana, for your passionate and devoted work and your participation today. We're a little ahead of schedule, which seems miraculous for an online event of this nature and spanning so many countries. So what I would like to suggest is that we take a 10-minute break now for people just to have a few moments of comfort, get some water, maybe some fresh coffee. I know it's different time zones around the world. And then we're going to come back and go to our Q&A with our 3 panelists. Don't forget, in any language, or in French, English, and Spanish, you have the opportunity, please do put some questions in the chat boxes, and we will ensure these go to our speakers when we come back in 10 minutes. So at 4 p.m., we will begin the Q&A Paris time. Thank you very much.